it. Uh, Finding student debt relief, navigating the one-time payment account adjustment, forgiveness, and repayment options. My name is Jordan Daniels, and I'm joined with my coworker, Lisa Milas. We are both at Empire Justice Center. I'm a student debt counselor. We are a legal services nonprofit, and today we are going to discuss the federal student loan system and how to hopefully eliminate your federal student loans, but at the least get on the right path to managing them. I am a student loan borrower myself, with what I like to call a Robin Hood-esque detest for student loan servicing, servicers themselves and their lack of knowledge and accountability when it comes to providing information to borrowers. My goal for today is to hopefully provide information that you would not have been able to find by just following the news or looking at federal student aid, and so that you can overall just make better informed choices about your debt. So here's the agenda for today and what I plan to cover. If you have any questions as we move through the presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A feature. My colleague Lisa will be monitoring the chat, and I will pause a few times throughout the presentation to answer some relevant questions. I do ask though, if you do have questions regarding your personal loan situation, that you hold them for an individual counseling session with me. I will give you detailed instructions on the end on how to request one of those. Additionally, everyone who registered for this webinar will receive a copy of the PowerPoint that I'm using so that you can reference back and also follow any of the links that I have provided. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of our program. EdCap stands for Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program. We are a network that was created by the Community Service Society of New York. We kind of help to navigate the very complicated student loan repayment system. We are funded by New York State to assist borrowers. We host presentations just like this one. We help develop educational materials for borrowers, and most importantly, we do provide those free one-on-one student debt counseling services. We primarily assist borrowers with federal student loans because they tend to have more options to manage and eliminate their debt compared to private student loan holders. However, we also assist private debt holders too. I want to note just in general that there are a lot of scams going on right now in the student loan world. Companies that are charging clients to consolidate their loans, switch payment plans, or just give general advice on their debt. Borrowers should never have to pay for any of these services. With EdCap, they will always be free. All right. So let's kind of talk about what happened with the Biden plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student debt and what we might be able to expect coming next. So there still seems to be a lot of confusion about how this decision actually panned out. So it was a 6-3 decision. The Supreme Court struck down the Biden-Harris relief plan that was supposed to cancel up to $20,000 in student loans. That decision came out on June 30th, 2023. There were two major legal challenges and super strong opposition from the affected parties. In this case, that would be the loan servicers. So that caused its eventual denial. The Biden administration has announced a pretty vague Plan B, which entails using the Higher Education Act to seek loan cancellation instead. This will be a lengthy process, just like it was the first time, and it also will have an uncertain outcome. And we really can't rely on this when it comes to making plans for managing our debt. We need to turn to alternatives that we know we have, like things like income-driven repayment forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness, total and permanent disability discharge, borrower defense, fresh start. These are all things that we are going to cover today that could possibly assist you. So I do also want to stress that all of the news that you're hearing about the Biden administration forgiving billions of dollars in debt, $144 billion, I think is the most recent figure. This has absolutely nothing to do with the cancellation plan that was brought to the Supreme Court last year. That was not passed. So everyone who received this forgiveness took steps to pursue one of the programs listed on the slide. Their relief was not just automatic. So you do have to take steps in order to qualify for these things.
Jordan, folks are having difficulty. The slides aren't up. It just says auto save.
Sorry, everybody. One moment.
This would be a good place to kind of pause.
Let me.
There you go.
Oh, everyone can see them now.
Yep.
Is it full screen? Let me fix it. Give me 1 second, everybody. We love a technical difficulty. Let's see.
I'm usually the queen of technical difficulties.
And I'm going to do 1 second. I don't know why I can't get it off this screen. This way, I share and bring it full screen. I pause. Okay, Lisa, can you see it?
We can. It's on the first slide now.
Okay.
There's your agenda. There you go.
All right. So I'm going to go back to this screen because this is where I feel like I did a majority of my chit-chatting. So yeah, basically the programs that you see listed here on this slide are the reason that people, these billions of dollars in debt, are currently being forgiven. They pursue one of these programs listed here. So today we're going to discuss how we do that and the steps that you can take to hopefully become part of that forgiveness figure. So let's talk about what we're entitled to right now as a federal student loan borrower. So as we all know, interest began accruing on loans as of September 1st, 2023, and then payments resumed on October 1st of 2023. This, to be frank, was an administrative nightmare, and none of the servicers were really properly prepared to do so. This is why many of you on the call have probably experienced or are still experiencing unexplained forbearances, incorrect billing statements, extended wait times to speak to your servicer, unprocessed consolidations and other paperwork, et cetera. The nightmare list goes on. So the federal government knew that this was a possibility. So the Department of Ed announced that all loans entering repayment on October 1st would be subject to what's called the 12-month on-ramp period. So from October 1st of 2023 to September 30th of 2024, any missed, late, or partial payments will not be subject to late fees. They cannot be reported to your credit agency, and no loan can go into default during this period of time. It's similar to the COVID-19 payment pause, except that interest will still be accruing and you will still be billed. So the only consequence of not paying is that any month where you do not make your payment on time and in full will not count towards any of the forgiveness programs that we discussed today. So if you are not pursuing forgiveness and are in, kind of dire financial straits, there are technically no consequences to skipping your payment until the end of September. So I do encourage you to take advantage of this if this is something that you do need to do during this time. Obviously, the economy is a little rough right now. So since payment has resumed, it is important to kind of begin considering what your overall long-term strategy is going to be for paying off your debt. So choosing your best repayment plan, deciding whether you should pay off the loan versus pursue some type of forgiveness program. These are all very complicated choices. Here at EdCap, we kind of split people's situations into 3 general categories to help them kind of decide how they should be moving forward. So here are those 3 categories. It is a general understanding that the goal of student loan debt is to pay it off. For some borrowers, that is totally reasonable, and it is the correct route to take if it's right for you. However, there are plenty of borrowers where that is just simply not really an option. EdCap is really trying to steer borrowers away from the narrative that the goal of student debt is to pay it off and kind of educate them about their other options. So the first out of these 3 strategies is to pay the debt off in full as quickly as possible. This is a suitable strategy for some borrowers, particularly those with a low loan balance and relatively high steady income. This strategy lets the least amount of interest accrue and can even leave room for lump sum payments if they want to do so. If you can afford this strategy, that's amazing. However, a lot of people cannot. So the second strategy we have is to pay the minimum amount required on an income-driven repayment plan of your choice until you reach forgiveness on whatever program you'd like to pursue. So the 2 primary federal forgiveness programs are public service loan forgiveness, oftenly referred to as PSLF. This eliminates your remaining loan balance after 10 years of employment with a government or nonprofit employer. The second program is income-driven repayment forgiveness, or IDRF. This eliminates your remaining balance after 20 or 25 years, depending on your loan types. And you also have to be on an income-driven repayment plan for this entire term. This strategy is suitable for those with really high loan balances and low to moderate income. Overall, this is a long haul strategy. There is no making lump sum payments to reach forgiveness quicker. You are in it for that 10, 20, 25 years, depending on which program that you decide to pursue. So this strategy is the one I'm taking for my debt. For example, I know that I'll be working in public service for at least 10 years. My loan balance is about equal to my yearly salary, so this is my best option. The final strategy is to pay the minimum amount required basically until you died. I know this one probably sounds a little bit bleak, and it kind of goes against everything that we know about personal finance, but it is the reality for a lot more people than you would think. This strategy is best for people who have very high loan balances compared to their income. This is a situation where realistically, there's no way that a person is going to be able to pay off the debt with just the salary that they get from their jobs. So you would get on a payment plan that you can afford and just pay it until you basically can't anymore. I see this a lot in Parent Plus borrowers whose balances are on average much higher than regular loans. I see it a lot in older borrowers whose balances have basically tripled since they were dispersed because of the interest. There's no shame in this choice, and federal student loans are dischargeable upon death, so they can never become a burden to your loved ones. So let's kind of explore what you would do if you were pursuing option number 2, which is getting your loans forgiven under some kind of forgiveness or discharge program. So these are the 4 primary federal forgiveness and discharge programs. The first one, which I mentioned before, income-driven repayment forgiveness, which is that 20 and 25 years on an income-driven repayment plan, and it forgives whatever is at the end. Whether you pay 20 versus 25 years depends on whether you have graduate debt versus undergraduate debt, or both. There is no employment requirement to pursue this type of forgiveness, unlike public service loan forgiveness. All you have to do is be enrolled and make your payments on time and in full in an income-driven repayment plan. The next program is that PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, that 10 years on an income-driven repayment plan while you work full-time, which to them is considered on average 30 hours per week, with a nonprofit or government employer. There have been major changes to this program during the pandemic, and it has made it so much easier to pursue this type of forgiveness. So if you have qualifying employment, please reach out to me and we can begin this process as soon as possible. Next is borrower defense to repayment. So this would discharge your remaining balance if you went to a school that defrauded you or engaged in some sort of misconduct and you took out federal loans to attend that school. So there is a comprehensive list of schools that have already been proven to fit this criteria on the studentaid.gov website. One of the bigger ones, if you're from the capital region, which is where I'm located, was the ITT technical institutions. So please look at the schools. And if you see your college or any institution that you ever attended, please reach out to me for next steps. And then lastly, there is total permanent disability discharge. This probably won't apply to most people on this call, but if you have any disability that prevents you from being able to engage in what they call substantial or gainful activity, this could be a physical or mental condition. There is a discharge program that forgives your entire balance if you're on Social Security disability, or you can also get it forgiven with a physician signature. Again, reach out if you're unsure if your condition would qualify. Going to take a brief pause just to see if there are any questions before I keep going. I know at the beginning there was a few technical errors. Lisa, do you see anything?
I do not see any questions in the chat
Okay.
about the content.
Okay, perfect. So I'll keep going. All right. So if you're planning on pursuing PSLF or IDRF, here are the steps that you need to take ASAP to accrue credit. Just a reminder that we can assist you with every step of the way on this. So step one is to consolidate if you have to. So I want to clarify that consolidation doesn't always mean combining your loans. It can also mean that you are transforming your loans. You can use this process to turn a type of loan into another type of loan. So for example, if you have any loan that is not a direct subsidized or unsubsidized loan, like a FFEL loan, which is most popular, federal family education loans, or Perkins loans, you must consolidate those in order to pursue forgiveness. If you have loans from multiple different time periods, for example, if you got a bachelor's degree in 2010, you went back for your master's in 2016, you now have two sets of loans with two different disbursement dates. You want to consolidate them together to get the maximum amount of credit under an opportunity right now called the IDR account adjustment. This has a deadline of April 30th, 2024. I'm going to go way into depth on this in just a few slides. I do want to caution now Parent Plus borrowers that you should not consolidate until you speak with someone at EdCap. Parent Plus borrowers are the exception for almost every single rule, and they're much more complicated. So we would hate to see you consolidate improperly and maybe lose out on credit. So definitely reach out to us. Right. The second step would be to enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. I could probably do an entirely separate presentation about the complexities of choosing an income-driven repayment plan. But as a general rule of thumb, there are 4 income-driven repayment plans to choose from. SAVE, which is the newest plan that is most likely going to be the cheapest option for most borrowers pursuing forgiveness. There's PAYE, or pay as you earn, IBR, or income-based repayment, and ICR, or income contingent repayment. If you are a Parent Plus borrower, ICR is your only option if you want to pursue any type of forgiveness, and it is often the most expensive. There is a loophole that a lot of you might have heard about that we have pursued with clients to get around this and get Parent Plus borrowers on a cheaper plan. But again, if you are a Parent Plus borrower, there's a whole other can of worms that we need to get into. So definitely talk to us. You can enroll in an IDR plan during the consolidation process, or you can also do it separately with a very simple application on studentaid.gov. You must enroll in one of these 4 IDR plans in order to accrue credit towards forgiveness moving forward. All right, and then I just want to talk briefly about SAVE and why it could possibly be your best option moving forward if you're pursuing forgiveness. So SAVE stands for Saving on a Valuable Education. This plan is going to replace the current revised pay-as-you-earn plan, or repayee. It only takes about 5 to 10% of your discretionary income in order to calculate a payment for you, while the other plans take somewhere between 10 and 20%. This plan also has an interest subsidy, where if the payment calculated for you under SAVE does not cover your monthly interest, then interest can no longer accrue on the loan. So this means that if your income is low enough, then your loan balance may never move or increase ever again. So there is also a forgiveness component to enrolling in SAVE. Starting on February 1st, 2024, for borrowers with originally dispersed loan balances less than $12,000, they can reach forgiveness on SAVE in just 10 years. So you must have direct loans in order to qualify for SAVE, but unfortunately, Parent Plus borrowers do not qualify for this plan. You may consolidate any non-direct loans to access the SAVE plan, and it will likely be your cheapest option moving forward if you want to pursue any of the forgivenesses we've talked about. The third step would be to track your progress on these forgiveness programs. So PSLF has a payment tracker on Mohila. If you're pursuing PSLF, Mohila will be your servicer moving forward. And on their website, it allows you to see how many payments you have until you reach forgiveness. The magic number is 120. So that is 10 years worth of payments. It shows you how many out of 120 that you have. So IDRF, though, does not currently have an available tracker. The Department of Education does claim that one will be available by the end of the summer. Obviously, things have been delayed multiple times already, so we can't guarantee that, but we hope to have an IDRF tracker available very soon. I'm going to pause again, just in case there's any questions. I know we're going through a lot very quickly.
So do you have some questions, Jordan, some particular situations? So We have a question. My son is graduating in 5 weeks. Do we need to consolidate his loans by the 4/30 deadline to qualify for one of these plans?
So unfortunately, your son is graduating in 5 weeks, meaning that his loans will not be in repayment until 6 months after he graduates, and you cannot consolidate until your loans are in repayment. So he will likely not be able to take advantage of the opportunity, but he might not have to if he just has regular direct unsubsidized and subsidized loans. FEL loans are no longer serviced, so he doesn't have to worry about those. The only ones that we might have to worry about is if he has Perkins loans. But unfortunately, he won't be able to make that deadline.
And another question, Jordan, we have is, do partial payments count during the ramp period? In this case, the servicer is providing different information on the billing than what they're being told. For example, the letter that the borrower is receiving is saying the payment is the service letter is saying that you have to make a $20 payment, but it's still being billed at $500 a month, and that person is getting emails saying that they have late payment on file.
Yeah, so they will always bill you. They're still going to send you late notices. They are still going to send letters to scare you into paying. Loan servicers at their core are businesses. They still want to get as much money as they can. And if they can frighten you into paying more than you have to, they will. You will still get billed for the full amount that is due. However, if you make partial payments, they will still count. Your loan balance will go down, and they can't report you and they can't put you into default or delinquency for not making your full payment. However, if your payment is not in full as billed, it will not count towards forgiveness. That's the only thing it will penalize.
So, okay, there's a bunch here, so let me.
No, it's okay. We can take
Okay, I have student loans and Parent Plus loans. Is there a way to separate the two? Can I consolidate my loans and pay Parent Plus loans separately?
You can. Yes. It is complicated, but yes, reach out to me.
And Jordan, you'll provide your contact information at the end of
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
right?
Exactly how you
Okay.
can book an appointment with me.
Okay, another question. With regard to missed payments, will the missed payments during this period, I'm assuming that's the ramp period, be reported to the credit bureaus after the 9/30/24 date?
Miss period. No. Okay, so they get reported on a monthly basis. So if you, for example, the way I've seen it play out with real clients is they will miss their, let's say they missed their March payment. It will get reported to the credit agency that there was a missed payment, not that you're in default or delinquency, that there is a missed payment. That may knock your credit a little bit if you're looking on like Credit Karma, but by the end of the month, it will immediately give you back all the points that you lost before it hits the next month. So if you order your credit report, a formal report, it will never show. If you're watching your credit live on one of these apps, you're going to see it go down and then get the points right back by the end of the month. So any missed late or partial payments made during this time period will not be reported afterwards. And it is reported now technically, but there are no consequences. Your points come right back.
And then next, we have a question, if you could give a brief summary of the Parent Plus loophole.
Absolutely. So in theory, the Parent Plus loophole, you have to have at least 2 separate Parent Plus loans. If you've already consolidated your Parent Plus loans, it is unfortunately too late for you. And it is also too late to consolidate and do this loophole in accordance with the IDR account adjustment. So if you're pursuing PSLF or something and you have Parent Plus loans, it is unfortunately too late to do it now for the IDR account adjustment. However, we can still do it to get you on a cheaper repayment plan. You have to have at least 2 Parent Plus loans separate. The goal is we would take each of these Parent Plus loans and consolidate them into 2 separate servicers, 1 and 2. And then we would bring them back together into 1 servicer at the end. So it's a total of technically 3 consolidations. And the goal is to erase any proof that it was ever a Parent Plus loan by consolidating it so many times that it loses its original code. It has worked for some clients, it hasn't worked for others, and there's nothing that we can do about it if it doesn't work. Because it's a loophole, if it works, we can get away with it. If it doesn't, we unfortunately can't complain about it. There's nothing that we can do. And we still haven't figured out why it works for some clients and why it doesn't for others. But I would say it's about a 50-50 success, a 50% success rate at this point. So it is worth it if we can make it work for you.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Those are all the questions in the chat as of now.
Absolutely. All right. So let's move on to the IDR account adjustment. This deadline is rapidly approaching April 30th, 2024. If you can take anything from this presentation, let it be that you should take advantage of the IDR account adjustment if you and while you can. So the income-driven repayment account adjustment is an opportunity to earn PSLF and IDRF credit that would have never previously counted under the original rules, but now it will until April 30th. This program basically addresses the systemic failure of the Department of Education to provide relief through these programs since they were created. Through this adjustment, borrowers could get credit for the following: any period of time that you were in repayment, last credit for months that you were making payments without being enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan. This is huge because this is one of the only requirements for IDRF. Time spent in forbearance exceeding 12 months and up to 36 cumulative months. This rule is kind of weird, but it's basically just meant to address borrowers that were in long periods of economic hardship. They are also counting most months spent in deferment prior to 2013 and all economic hardship deferments, no matter the length, after 2013. And then lastly, they are counting months prior to loan consolidation. This is huge because this means that they are looking at the history of your oldest loan, which will give you the most credit. Usually when you consolidate, you lose all credit towards a program, but now they're giving it all the way back to the oldest loan. Right, so borrowers, I'm going to stress again, borrowers with those varied repayment histories will get credit awarded based on the history of their oldest loan if they consolidate before the deadline. The only time borrowers will not get credit for are periods of in-school deferment, which is when you are actively enrolled in school at least half time, grace periods, which is the 6-month period after you graduate from college, and then also periods of default, except for periods in Fresh Start, which is a program that we're going to talk about at the end, and I'll discuss that in a few slides. So this is huge and probably the most generous that the Department of Ed will ever be. I didn't mention on this slide, but this is also an opportunity for Parent Plus borrowers to obtain credit towards PSLF because they did not qualify for the special waiver back in October of 2022. So in order to qualify, any non-direct loans must be consolidated before 4/30. If you already have direct loans, credit will be applied automatically anytime between now and July 1st, 2024. Some people may have already gotten their adjustments. It is kind of a rolling process until the summer. All right. And then I just briefly want to run through some of the less common forgiveness and discharge programs that are also available to federal borrowers. There is the New York State Get On Your Feet Loan Forgiveness Program, which allows individuals that went to undergrad in New York State and are also currently living in New York to get up to 24 months of loan payments covered. So it's more of immediate relief than it is forgiveness. There are a lot of exceptions and rules to this program. Very few people get approved, so we don't usually point clients in this direction a lot, but it can be helpful if you do get approved. There is also teacher loan forgiveness, or TLF, which forgives up to $17,500 in federal loans for teachers who meet a certain criteria after 5 consecutive years of teaching. It is vital to note that you cannot pursue TLF and PSLF at the same time. So we normally suggest if you have a high loan balance, we recommend PSLF because there's no limit to the amount that can be forgiven at the end of the 10 years. If your balance is less than $17,500, which for most teachers is not the case, then TLF may be worth it. So please get advice before you apply. And then there's closed school discharge, which is pretty self-explanatory. Discharges your balance if the school that you enrolled in closes while you were either attending or shortly after you withdrew with no comparable program offered. And then we have bankruptcy, which should absolutely be your last resort. It is possible to discharge your federal loans in bankruptcy, but they measure necessity by something called the undue hardship test. The standard is often very difficult to meet. Do not file bankruptcy without advising a professional first. We have attorneys on staff here at EdCap who do specialize in bankruptcy, and we're happy to kind of steer you in the right direction. And then lastly, there is death discharge. Obviously, this is a presentation about how to manage and eliminate your debt. We do not recommend death as one of those options. However, if there is no feasible way that you will pay off your balance, it is okay to settle with the idea that you can pay as much as you can until you no longer have to. And then finally, I just want to talk about what to do if your loans are in default. So the Department of Education has announced a program called the Fresh Start Initiative. This is an opportunity for borrowers who, with defaulted federal loans, to get their loans not only back into good standing, but also to repair the negative remarks on their credit. So borrowers must opt in to participate in this program, and they have until the 1st of October of this year to do so. During the Fresh Start period, collection activities will remain suspended. So to opt in, you have to do the following. If you plan on continuing your education, you must apply for FAFSA and enroll in school at least half-time. Once you do that, your loans will automatically be transferred to a new servicer and placed on in-school deferment. Before, if you were in default, you used to not be able to fill out the FAFSA form, go back to school. Now they have waived that. The second way, if you don't plan on going back to school, you must contact your debt collector directly. In most cases for federal loans, this is the DRG, Default Resolution Group. You can also apply online at myeddebt.gov. The entire process only takes about 15 minutes. You must request that your loans are transferred to a non-default servicer and enroll in some kind of repayment plan in good faith. You will not have to pay on this immediately. You won't have to pay until after October 1st. However, they just ask for your commitment to some type of payment plan. After you opt in to using one of these methods, your default should be automatically removed from your credit history. This process is truly very easy, and it is the best way to get out of default if your loans defaulted before the COVID-19 pandemic. If they defaulted during the pandemic, they are automatically being put back into good standing. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. It is basically a get out of jail free card. However, if you do go into default after October 1st, 2024, this opportunity is no longer available, and all of the previous default rules will be applied, which is like wage garnishments, tax intercepts, collection calls, all of that lovely stuff will all be back into play after October 1st. So here is just a list of resources that have popped up throughout the presentation. These are all interactive links that you'll be able to click when I send out the presentation. I made this one a more abbreviated version just because I know everyone has very specific questions about their situation. So I'll move on how to book a counseling session with me. So I've probably said it about 10 times throughout this presentation, but we have an entire network of student debt counselors that are ready to assist you with anything that we presented about here today. We've helped thousands of borrowers since we started our program back in 2019. On the screen is my contact information. Email is by far the easiest way to reach me to book a free unbiased session. My phone number is also listed, but I will warn you, I am the only one currently providing direct services here. So as it stands, it is very difficult for me to call people back on the phone if they leave me messages. If you send me an email, I will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days for sure. So I am generally the student debt counselor for the capital region, so the Albany, Rensselaer, Schenectady, Saratoga counties. However, if you are outside of my range and you attended this presentation, please feel free to contact me and book your session with me. I'm happy to assist you. So I will ask again if anyone has any questions.
So Jordan, we had a follow-up question to the individual whose son is graduating in May. Congratulations to you. That's awesome. The question is, since he can't consolidate before 4/30/2024, is there another date next year by which he needs to do so?
As of right now, the strict deadline for the IDR account adjustment is April 30th. It used to be, for example, just a few months ago, it used to be December 31st, 2023. Before that, it was June 30th, 2023. Before that, it was, it's been extended so many times. So it's tough to say whether or not it's going to be extended at all into the following year. Again, it might not be necessary for your son to consolidate, especially if he is graduating now. He likely just has direct unsubsidized or subsidized loans, unless he has a Perkins loan. So the need for him to consolidate might not even be there. But to answer your question, we do not know, unfortunately.
And just another question on the same topic. Her son has Perkins loans, so she just wanted to highlight
Got
that.
it. Okay, so if he has Perkins loans, then yes, they would need to be consolidated in order to pursue any type of forgiveness. But as of right now, there would be no IDR account adjustment situation. He would just be pursuing it regularly, and he can consolidate as soon as his loans go into repayment. This is for people whose loans have been in existence for years and haven't received proper credit. If your son's loans are just being dispersed, then he hasn't really been, well, at least not to say it won't happen, but he hasn't been wronged yet.
And then there's a handful of questions about contacting you, and your contact information is up here. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Please feel free to screenshot whatever. Again, everyone's going to receive the presentation that has this at the end. But yeah, email is preferred if possible. So let me pop here, make sure we're all good with questions. Oh, I see a few that we
oh, I just want to.
Okay, so I see one. How can we tell if we've received an IDR account adjustment? Is there a one-time letter issued or something stated on our monthly statements? The answer to that is no. So the only way that you would really be able to tell is if some people don't have any periods of time that were counted incorrectly. Some people have been fined since the beginning and they got the correct amount of credit that they were supposed to. The biggest indicator that it happened is that your payment counts would go up, specifically for PSLF. If you were wronged in some way, not given proper credit, were in some kind of forbearance or deferment that you didn't get credit for, your number out of 120 would simply just raise without explanation. And that would be your indicator that it was adjusted. The second biggest indicator is if you had been missing so much credit that your loan was supposed to be forgiven and it never was, your loan would be forgiven. So those are the two big indicators. Your payment count goes up, and if your loan was supposed to have already been forgiven, it gets forgiven. But you can guarantee by July 1st that everyone's account allegedly is supposed to have been touched who needed an adjustment. All right. Well, if no one has any more questions, then I will hopefully see everyone in my email for an individual counseling session. Thank you so much for coming today. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Take
Have a
care.
great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.